All right, thank you for staying with us. The conversation, as I said earlier, it's about the outrage, actually, that our street trail, rather, what Kemi Badnock has been saying in interviews and podcasts about Nigeria, speaking what she thinks is our truth. And you might want to say, is Kemi Badnock? Olukemi Olufunto Adegoke Badnock is a British politician who has served as leader of the opposition and leader of the Conservative Party since November 2024 till date, and she has held, previous offices. She was the Shadow Secretary of State for Leveling Up Housing and Communities for the United Kingdom, among many other things as well. She was Secretary of State for Business and Trade 2023 to 2024 and President of the Board of Trade of the United Kingdom, Minister for Women and Equities of the UK as well. She has held so many posts and served in many capacities as well. She is of Nigerian descent, and his parents actually is Fei Adegoke. And, because of our tie to Nigeria, and of course, our allegiance is now with the king, to the king rather, in the UK. And some of what she has been saying, many Nigerians, or let me say some Nigerians, are having issues with it. To say, you might not be here, but you might have been born here, or possibly you are here at some point, and maybe your experience wasn't what it should be, but it's like, allegedly, or some Nigerians think she has a vendetta, she has an axe to grind with the state, and almost every question that she has been asked, she has a way of, putting Nigeria in the mix and in a bad light. These are the concerns of some of Nigerians, including some handlers of the president, including Mr. Vice President Kashim Shettima as well, including Abike Dabiri, the chairman of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, who said, especially when Kemi Badnock was made the leader of the Conservative, to say, we have reached out to her to congratulate her 3 times, but she has not, even acknowledged our effort as well. But some of the things she said, many Nigerians will say, where is the lie in all of these things? You might not like her, you might not like her tone, but her submissions, lies. Nigerians have come to counter her as well, to say she's a liar. One of presidential handlers yesterday wrote and said she's a compulsive liar. She just say things, they don't know what her intents were, but that's not the state of things. But you might want to have, an idea of part of what she has said in our interviews that has to do with Nigeria. So take a look.
I chose this country because here I could breathe free and I could be everything that I wanted to be. I grew up in Nigeria and I saw firsthand what happens when politicians are in it for themselves, when they use public money as their private piggy banks, when they promise the earth and pollute not just the air but the whole political atmosphere with their failure to serve others. I saw what socialism means for millions. It's poverty and broken dreams. I came to Britain determined to make my way in a country where hard work and honest endeavour can be anything like British culture or American culture. We've just absorbed things from all sorts of other places, so there's nothing wrong with us absorbing more. This is nonsense. If you don't defend your culture, it will disappear. And when people come to a country, they should want to be a part of that country. We are not a hotel. We are not a dormitory just for some people who want to make money and go off. This is our home and we need to look after it. And that means making sure that the people who come to the country are compatible with those beliefs and at the very least do not damage that. I think that means getting more migration from places that are more like-minded, 1, but 2, making sure that those people who do come to the country, this is far more important, understand that these are the terms that they accept when they want to move to the UK. It's not about bringing the culture from the other place and turning the UK into the place you've just come from. If I wanted to be in Nigeria, I would have moved back to Nigeria. I don't want to recreate Nigeria in the UK. And I think that there are many people who come from countries where they want to recreate what they are familiar with in the UK. That is bad for social cohesion, and it is bad for the very things that made Britain what it is. all of those things which I call, I know you use liberal differently in the US, but those things that I call liberal values, free speech, equality under the law. People don't understand how special this stuff is. Freedom, that being treated the same no matter who you are, whether you're the poorest person or the richest person, the presumption of innocence, something that's thrown away with cancel culture. Got to fight these things. And I know what it is like to live in a place that doesn't have these things. So it's very, very precious. And I will die to protect those things. And I don't want the UK being turned into the sort of place that everybody else is running from. Somebody has to.
All right. We are being joined right now by public affairs analyst, of course, a political analyst as well, and very importantly, a journalist, Femi Olanipekun, joins us from the US. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right. Good to have you again.
Thank you.
Now, the question is, I'm sure you have followed the story, but possibly it's a developing one because it's not looking like we've had the last of it. All kind of interviews, podcasts emanating from everywhere, recent ones, not too recent ones, that has the imprint of Kemi Balench there about what she has been saying. Some will say it's our truth, let us say it. If he's, damning on Nigeria and the state and its institutions, so be it. Many Nigerians are saying it's not today that we have people of Nigerian descent, who are serving in other countries as well, and they will not, quote unquote, run the country down and its institutions the way Kemi has been doing. What's making her angry? What was she upset about? And are these things verifiable? Some of what you said. We'll get there because some persons have countered what she said as well, especially her experience at ISL, International School in Lagos. That's the secondary school at University of Lagos, to say what you said about carrying chairs and table cannot be true. You attended an international secondary school. How can you be carrying chairs and tables and you're making it to look like it's a poor place? And your parents, according to those making those proposals, are saying they are the kind of people you can tag as being, upper middle class. So where is all these things coming from? We get into that. But as far as Kemi's Balench and tirade against Nigeria is concerned, what's your take on that?
Well, thank you again for having me. I mean, it's an interesting debate, and it's unusual in a way because this is coming from someone who's a Nigerian, and so naturally you expect Nigerians, you understand Nigerians' position. We expect that she'll speak from the position of patriotism. She'll speak as a Nigerian. They feel she's Nigerian. Kemi Balench is perhaps, as of now, the highest ranking Nigerian or a person of Nigerian descent holding a political position anywhere in the world outside of Nigeria as the leader of opposition in the UK. But I find it somewhat hypocritical that Nigerians are expressing outrage, and call it Fox outrage, with their position on Kemi Balench's statements. It's controversial. I think we should understand that Kemi Balench is first a politician. It's first, she sees herself as a Briton, not as a Nigerian. She's of Nigerian descent. She was born in the UK, but she spent the early part of her years here in Nigeria. And I have had this conversation with many Nigerians who feel very strongly about what Kemi says, what she's been saying. And I've asked these conversations, I've asked these questions in those conversations saying, what exactly is Kemi saying that Nigerians in their private moments do not say about Nigeria? What exactly has Kemi said that Nigerian politicians, whether in leadership, holding offices, as Nigerian officials, or as opposition leaders, have not said about Nigeria? Were we not here when former President Muhammadu Buhari went to the UK and doubled down on former UK Prime Minister David Cameron, saying Nigeria is fantastically corrupt? And when journalists asked him, so are you going to seek, ask that the UK Prime Minister David Cameron apologize? He said, no. So do you agree that Nigeria is fantastically corrupt? He said, yes. And I recall that while the current president is in opposition, I mean, was in opposition, his party in opposition, they made worse statements about Nigeria. We cannot trivialize, we cannot wish away, we cannot downplay Kemi's experiences. She has every right to say what she has. I understand Nigerians not accepting, feeling betrayed by Kemi's statement. Um, I'm a very pragmatic person. And being objective here, she's saying things that she experienced. We can go into the nitty-gritty of what she's saying and say if there is truth in what she's saying or not. I mean, especially you raised the point about, attending ISL and then if it's true that she was carrying chairs and lockers. She didn't live in today's Nigeria. She lived in the Nigeria that was ruled by the military. And I think it will be hypocritical for anyone to say that Nigeria of that time was a perfect example of Nigeria. Perhaps she lived during the Abacha regime. There are challenges. Nigeria did not turn the corner until when Obasanjo became president in 1999. That was the first time that civil servants, those we call, I would say, are in the middle class, started earning what we can call a living wage. If she's talking about her experiences as a teenager during the military years, I think we should let her be. There is nothing she has said. I know this is a very controversial position, but there is nothing she has said. The Nigerians outside of the country, especially Nigerians outside of Nigeria, who live in the UK, who live in the US, if you have conversations with them, you need to meet Nigerians outside of Nigeria and hear them speak about Nigeria. Almost everyone has a bad opinion about Nigeria. Few people do. In fact, those who hold patriotic views about Nigeria, those who stay inside of Nigeria. Those who are outside of Nigeria speak ill more about the country than those who are on the inside. So I find it hypocritical. I think it's a height of hypocrisy for the attack, let alone coming from some Nigerian officials. What did Vice President Kashim Shettima said about Nigeria during the Chibok issue, girls? What political capital did they make out of the Chibok issues? The Chibok girls that time. They made so much political capital that they rode on it to power at that time, made mincemeat of former President Goodluck Jonathan's political, goodwill or whatever, or what have you. So I don't see whatever Kemi Balench has said. I don't know what's wrong about it. Are you talking about experience with the police? Are you talking about, are you saying what you said about the police is wrong? During my time in Nigeria, I've had personal experiences with the police. I know what my colleagues or my friends experienced with the police. So expecting her to window dress, Kemi Balench has the right to say what she's saying. Kemi Balench, is not Anthony Joshua. She may reserve the right to speak in the way she's speaking. And I've also spoken with people who have known Kemi even before she became a politician, before she ran for her first political post, contesting for office, to become a member of parliament. And she's always been like that. And I think I should provide some background also. Kemi Badench's father, Dr. Femi Adegoke, who died a few years back, is a Yoruba conservative who was part of the Egbe the Lanomo Odua, led by Professor Banji Akintoye. And I think she also led like a public intellectual group, called the Voice of Reasoning. And if you have listened to Dr. Femi Adegoke's interview, you will see that indeed, as they say, that the apple does not fall far from the tree. Kemi is cut from the same cloth as her father. She has a history of speaking plainly, speaking forthrightly, saying things as they are. And I'm sure that she's also aware of the consequences of some of the things she's saying. I've seen people say it's hypocritical of her also, that when she contested for office, she knew that there were Nigerians then, and then she appealed to Nigerian votes. I want to believe that Kemi is not fighting Nigerians. Kemi is talking about the situation in Nigeria. And when people say they ask her questions about the UK, and then she's making reference to Nigeria, we all do it. when I think it's hypocritical when you ask questions. I mean, when you're answering, you make comparison. I don't think there is any law that bans you from making comparison of issues. If you're asked about A, you can make comparison with B. You know, it's still within the same context. They asked about policing, you know, and then she made reference to saying, okay, this example of the police, this police is what this, and this is what this. I mean, it's just, I mean, classic comparison. You may not agree with that, but then I don't think we should take away our right to express what she's saying. We can, and I think we should understand the fact that she's a politician. That's what every politician does. It's classic political opportunism. That's what David, what's the guy here, the president-elect here, Donald Trump did. She's speaking to her base. She's a conservative. And I should let you know why Nigerians are against Kemi, especially Nigerians in the UK, is because Kemi is anti-immigration, and it's understandable. I mean, I totally understand Nigerians over there, but that's what the Conservative Party has always been. You understand? I mean, this party, just like every other conservative party across the world, they won in Canada, they won here in the United States. I mean, the Republicans have always been not too soft on immigration. And she's not running to be the Nigerian leader. She is running to be the British leader. So she needs to appeal to her base. And so she's not speaking for Nigeria. And I've also heard people make comparison with Rishi Sunak. Kemi lived for more than a decade in Nigeria. Rishi Sunak was born and brought up in Southampton, London. Southampton, the United Kingdom. I'm not aware of Rishi's direct connection to India, and that's Rishi. I mean, I'm not sure Rishi experienced firsthand India, but we all say these things. I go on social media, I see Nigerians talking about Nigeria every day. Except you're a supporter of the administration, I mean, you're benefiting in one way or the other. Everybody expresses disgust about how Nigeria is at the moment, expresses concern. Especially, I also lived during the military era, and I know what things were at that time. So if I'm now talking about Nigeria, someone will now ask me to keep short because I'm not being patriotic enough. Have we not had a time about me, Nigeria never happened to you? So the fact that she was of a middle class family, are you saying it's not possible that she's experienced an armed robbery before? So because she lived in Victoria Island, or because she attended, you know, or she was from a middle class family, Nigeria has never happened to her before. Have we not seen Nigerians with all of their money, you know, with Nigeria happening to them? We're all desirous of a better Nigeria, but that does not preclude us from saying, expressing our concerns about the country. I find it hypocritical. Nigerians say worse things than what Kemi is saying. So the fact that she's a British politician of Nigerian descent, I don't think she is holding brief. And I think the vice president is the least of any Nigerian that should castigate, you know, Kemi for whatever she's saying. They say what they said on record was a thing about Nigeria while they were in opposition. So they were not careful, they were not concerned about Nigeria's image at that time. I mean, they were playing politics with the future of Nigeria at that time. Nigeria was ridiculed. What happened that time was unfortunate, was horrendous, was disturbing. But then, as politicians that they were at that time, they made mincemeat of the situation. They took total advantage of the situation for their own selfishness, for their own political narrow interest. And that's what Kemi is also doing at this moment. I'm not totally in support of whatever she's saying, but I'm saying that we should not, you know, police her speaking. We should not police whatever she's saying. What she's saying is not out of place. What she's saying is not worse than what Nigerians themselves say every day on social media.
Okay. Mr. Femi, you've said quite a lot. I have a question of my own, but I'd like to ask a question based on what you said. You talked about Kemi being a politician. So I'd like to ask you, is it that you're trying to say that the statements, all she has been saying so far, has been politically motivated?
Well, I mean, so I'm saying that that's the traditional position. I mean, that's who politicians are anywhere in the world. And I made reference to Donald Trump here also. about people expect him to act in a certain way. He speaks in a different way, and that different way appeals to his supporters, to his base, and it helped him get to the highest office in the land, perhaps the most powerful presidency in the world. So I'm saying, as politicians are opportunists. And that's what Kemi is also doing. Kemi is a politician in the UK. She's making a distinction. She claims that she's not happy with the state of the UK, and she's making reference to examples, unfortunate examples around the world. And Nigeria, unfortunately, is one of them. She's saying she doesn't want the UK to become what Nigeria was, or
Okay.
what Nigeria is.
Mr. Femi, Nigerians would say, why throw us under the bus to put up your own career if she's trying to bring it in as political motivation? Because some persons are thinking, okay, it's her truth. But from the angle you're coming from, you're trying to say that she's a politician. So we are trying to see it now like, okay, she's trying to use Nigerians to get an edge in the UK. So bringing up these things to try to get an edge in the UK, do you think it's actually right?
No, so I mean, I don't think this is a debate about right or wrong. I've talked about the fact that she is a politician, and it's all not be fair to say that Kemi only cites Nigeria as example. She's made references about, about other examples, about other countries also. I mean, in fact, in the clip you played, her statement was general. There was a place where she made reference to Nigeria. The place she made references also, I believe, to other places in the world where things are not working the way she should. I mean, she made reference. I'm talking about liberalism and about liberal ideologies and what it means here in the United States and what have you. And like I said, we speak from our experiences. She has experienced firsthand a dysfunctional system, a dysfunctional society. She is living in perhaps a better society, but that better society has also is lapsing into dysfunctionality of recent. There's a lot to worry about in the UK. Crime rate on the streets of London. There is, as we have a gun violence here in the United States, there is knife violence in the United Kingdom. So the UK is far from perfect. But I'm saying that what she's saying, from my own perspective, I find it hypocritical. I find it very annoying that Nigerians are expressing anger, that the same Nigerians say worse things. So I'm not supporting what Kemi is saying. I'm just saying she has the right to say whatever she's saying. She's not running for office here in Nigeria.
Okay.
Whether she faces the consequences with a growing number of Nigerian immigrants in the UK, and they will will their vote against her, she faces consequences. I mean, that's her own cup of tea. I care less about whatever her political future is. But I'm saying it is hypocritical for Nigerians to express outrage. When Nigerians say worse things, go on social media. My sister, perhaps if I go on your social media page, I've seen you also express some of these sentiments on social media. Maybe Mr. Femi, would you also express such sentiments on social media? Maybe myself, I also express some of those sentiments on social media. So would anyone have the right to now shout me down and tell me that I'm not patriotic enough for reliving my experiences? I mean, why will anyone tell me that my experiences are false when they are not in my shoes?
All right.
So my house is actually about the hypocritical nature of Nigerians' outrage.
Right, and that hypocrisy you have I'm sure you have mentioned it like 6 times, in your submission to buttress your point. That is what as Kemi said, that other persons are not saying, that leaders are not saying, politicians even in Nigeria have not said themselves, especially when they are looking for vote and advantage. But then, some will say, you're not the only person. Kemi is not the only person. You have made a clarification and context to say she's a politician, because those, especially on the part of the government, who have been saying this, have been saying there is Anthony Joshua, who had a bad experience about when he came here, and he alleged that some persons wanted to take bribe from him before he could be taken in, on the part of the Boxing Association in Nigeria. But then he went ahead to flourish, and he hasn't been throwing Nigerian under the bus. But you said, okay, maybe Anthony Joshua is not a politician. And my colleague asked, must she always, repeatedly, most times use Nigeria for this edge? You have answered that as well. But the next question is this. There was an angle in which she said if actually there's anything that she wants to be, she'd rather be a Yoruba person. Because the northern Nigeria, she used very strong words to say she doesn't agree with religious views, and she would rather have nothing to do with those people. And so, apart from Nigeria as a state or Nigerians, there are many persons who took offense to say, why will you have a go at us? You are claiming to be a Yoruba person. You are throwing Nigeria under the bus at every instance, yet you are saying you have nothing to do with the northerners as well. Do you think this is a calculated attempt? You have talked about the consequences, whatever it will be a cup of tea. But what do you think the end game is? Because she said it. I'd rather be a Yoruba person than align myself with whatever they do in the north. Your take on that?
Well, so I mean, why like I said, and I think I should stress it again, I do not agree with everything that Kemi has said. So for instance, with that statement, I find it divisive, but again, it's a right. And she's making comparison. Our position on extreme Islamist ideology in the UK is well known. In fact, it's part of what brought her to the top of the ticket. I mean, why running for the leadership of the opposition in the UK? It's well established. She's a pro-Israel leader of the Tories, and a position on, in fact, that's part of why she's making reference again and again to Nigeria about talking about two-tier policing, about what the UK is descending into, about taking the liberal values of the UK out of context and using it to work against the UK. I mean, some of those views are not very controversial. Politicians are like that. And we made reference to Donald Trump, how controversial she is. And some of these views she's expressing, other politicians in the UK, but because perhaps they're not black, they're not Kemi Balench, they're not Nigerian. I've also expressed some of those sentiments also in the UK. So for instance, some of that I talked about the anti-immigration posture of the Conservative Party. That's always been, in the UK. And that's part of why most Nigerians are against that. For that particular statement, while I do not totally support, but it's also the reality. We've seen the havoc that Boko Haram and extremist ideologies have done in the north. It's a truth. I mean, when you look at the Human Development Index, the HDI in Nigeria, you see the states in the north. You see where they are. I mean, where they rank on some of these things. You see their positions. You've seen Nigerians also express some of these sentiments. These things are said every day on social media. So I mean, that's why I just find it funny. And like I said again, I find it hypocritical when Nigerians are angry. These are things in Nigeria, but I understand that she's a public figure, and then so perhaps there's a certain set of standards and she's expected to adhere to. But if you've known Kemi Balench, and I've spoken to people who've known her before she came into public life, and so that's who she is, and that's why I also drew an analogy and give a background into who her father is, and perhaps why she would not be surprised that she's speaking like that. And that's how her father is also. But I do not totally agree, with that. I know as a politician, you are supposed to unite people and then perhaps be wary of divisive rhetoric. And that's why I said she will face the consequences of whatever she's saying if the British public, and interestingly, with a sizable Nigerian population, do not agree with whatever she's saying. But what she's saying again does not detract from the truth.
All right.
Do we have extremist ideologies up north? Do we have a Boko Haram ideology that, has very strong negative views against Christians down south? Do we have, separatist security issues down south also? These are the truth. These are the facts. I think the bottom line for us is to work assiduously. The Nigerians in the diaspora, Nigerians in Nigeria, the middle class especially, work towards engendering a Nigeria of our dreams that we'll be proud of. That, whatever anyone says, we're careless about what 1 million Kemi Balench say. But Kemi Balench does not have anything to say against us in the negative. That we market ourselves, that Nigeria of the future in the next few years is a proud example, is a model unto other nations, not the current Nigeria that is a syllabus of error.
Okay. Mr. Femi, I'd like to ask you, do you think these statements that Kemi has made so far would have any positive or negative effects on the Nigerian government?
Well, it remains to be seen, though I feel that the Nigerian government has not managed this quite well. I feel it's a diplomatic blunder on the part of the Nigerian government, and I tell you why. If eventually Kemi Balench becomes the Prime Minister of the UK, I bet you the Nigerian government will not want to be in the bad book of the government of the UK. We do not possess the international clout. We do not, possess the diplomatic power. We do not possess the influence to stand shoulder to shoulder. With a country like the UK, our former colonial masters, if the president were to be Olusegun Obasanjo, but how would that have been different? I mean, these were the glory days with even the Fourth Republic, when Nigeria had considerable international presence on the international scene. But I feel it was a diplomatic blunder for the Nigerian government for this position. And I also heard what Abike Dabirerewa, said about the reaching out to Kemi. There's something the Nigerian government does that, they run to claim every Nigerian success in the diaspora, even if Nigeria has happened to you back home in Nigeria. I'm not saying that there is nothing good about Nigeria. There are so many things good about Nigeria. We've benefited also from Nigeria, but that does not preclude, it does not prevent us from saying things as they are. Why I feel that these one can come back to haunt us if Kemi becomes Prime Minister. And before I forget that, the Abike Dabirerewa statement, Kemi was here in Nigeria at some point, and Kemi met with senior Nigerian government officials. So I don't know where it's coming. Maybe it's because of trying to set up an appointment with Kemi and they didn't succeed when she became leader of opposition. That's why she came, because I think Abike Dabirerewa actually led in that attack, also, sort of attacked her. But I remember that Kemi came in here as Trade Secretary. When she was Trade Secretary under the previous administration, came here, had fruitful discussions with Nigerian officials. I think she even met the Lagos state government and the governor at that time. I was aware that she met Nigerian ministers when she came here. So this idea of she's throwing Nigeria under the bus and all of that, what she's saying, she's reliving her experiences and she's speaking to a political base and making references. We also do make reference. Politicians here also make reference to other countries and say, do you want your country to be like this? They want your country to be like, which I feel is normal, like I said, is political opportunism. That's what politicians do. So, I feel, well, it remains to be seen, that if Kemi eventually becomes Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, how would the Nigerian government, if this current Vice President is President at that time, or would the Nigerian government walk back what it said? I think there should be a way of rapprochement. They may feel strongly about it, but then their own work is well cut out. Fix Nigeria. Nobody will make Nigeria any bad examples anymore.
All right, Mr. Femi. Okay. People would generally say that whatever has a good side also has a bad side. Like you rightly said, Nigeria also has its good parts. But some Nigerians will think, so far Kemi has been talking about Nigeria. She has only been saying negative things about Nigeria. Is it that actually Nigeria didn't do anything good for her per se? Or she just, I want to bring that word again, she's just trying to use us as a political motivation to step up her career level and her career game in the UK.
Right.
Okay, so I'll give you this example. It's a tragic one. I mean, it's an unfortunate one. I know of a person who was killed some years back. She was a senior guy in one of Nigeria's top bank, and he was killed. No, sorry, it was he. I mean, he was killed around, I think, VI or Lekki. Back then, I think they were just coming. He was coming from work, and I don't know, got into an argument, and the police shot him dead. It was a national issue at that time, and some of those issues coalesced to lead to NSAS. So if you are to talk to the parents of that guy who was cut down in his prime, or the younger brother of that person was cut down in his prime, would you expect him to speak so glowingly about Nigeria? I have people who left Nigeria because of bad experiences. And then we have other people also who romanticize Nigeria. If you're talking about, if you ask me, for instance, I probably will be objective. I will say the positive things, I'll say the negative things. But there's some other people who don't double speak, who say things as they are, who are just plain speak, pretty plain speak. And Kemi is not Anthony Joshua. Kemi is not Ademola Lookman. Ademola Lookman embraced his Yorubaness yesterday when he won the CAF African Player of the Year. And so people are different. I don't know if Kemi has any positive experiences. She attended the international school. I'm sure she paid for her fees at that time. We don't know. We don't have, perhaps we have another interview with Kemi to take her on her extreme positions in Nigeria and ask about our positions. But from what I can deduce, from what Kemi's father, the interview Kemi's father has granted severally, I saw a man that wasn't particularly happy about the state of Nigeria, that was pushing for self-determination at some point, or pushing for the regions to be autonomous so that the Yoruba people, the Igbo people, the Hausa people, the Fulani people can develop on their own at their own pace within the Nigerian state. I mean, he flirted with the idea of, having autonomy. In fact, in an interview before the 2023 election, he was evidently against us going into that election and saying we should do this and this. So I think that also rubs off on Kemi. We can take her on, I have no good things for you to say about Nigeria, but for what she's saying at the moment, I don't think she said anything that other Nigerians, leaders, citizens, followers, politicians, opposition have not said.
All right. We want to sincerely thank you, Femi Olanipekun, a journalist and, of course, a public affairs analyst, for your time and your take. These are developing stories. Possibly in the coming days, we'll have this conversation again when we have, other angles to it. Thank you for your take and your time, Femi.
Thank you for having me.
All right. This is exactly what we will do. Femi has said it's our truth. Why are Nigerians being hypocritical? Maybe because of the, who is saying the message? The message, actually. But this is what we do. When we take this break, we'll take this break right now. When we return, we'll talk about the exploits of Nigeria at the CAF Awards yesterday. But then, there was this thing that Kemi said about the police in Nigeria stealing his brother's shoe, when there was an issue. We'll play with, end this particular segment with that. We have that clip now.
We use them to try and destroy us.
Do you trust the British police?
I do. But, remember my experience with the police in Nigeria was very negative. And coming to the UK, my first experience with the police was very positive. The police in Nigeria would rob us. So when people say, "Oh, I had this bad experience with the police because I'm black and they're white," I was like, "Well, I remember the police stole my brother's shoes and his watch."
His shoes?
Yeah, they took his shoes and his watch. It's a very poor country, so people do all sorts of things, and giving people a gun is just a license to intimidate. But that's not the bar we should use for British police. Obviously, it should be much higher. But my experience was so positive. When I was burgled, for example, the police were there, very helpful. They eventually caught the person. This is 2004, so 20 years ago. The police did catch, criminals. And now we've given them too much to do, in my view. So the police are the first line of defense for everything. And I think that burden makes it a lot harder for them to actually do the basics. And that's another thing that we need to look at.
Let's talk about some of the social issues that have exploded here.